Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gordon, thank you for being here as well. Let me try to clarify something. You were just talking about that the hope of this and adding more transparency and such is to increase competition. So it is your belief, if we ask companies to disclose who they are giving to and ask their employees who they are giving to, more companies are going to say, yes, I want to get in that. This will increase competition, therefore decrease price. Is that what you are saying with that?
We always hope that increasing trust in the system will cause more companies to participate in the system.
So you anticipate when we ask people who they give to, they're going to say, yes, I haven't done bidding before, but I want to jump in. I want to participate in that. Now that I'm going to be required to say who I give to before I bid, I'm now going to engage in a process that's new, so to increase competition on that.
Not because they're looking forward to making the disclosure, but because the disclosure can increase trust in the system. That's right.
Where will this data be distributed? We talked a little bit about this before, and who will make the decision on how this data gets out to the public?
You're really then getting into the specifics, and I should say a word about the specifics of a draft. The fact is, a draft executive order is a confidential document. We're discussing it internally.
Right. I understand that. I've got several questions. I understand. I've heard that loud and clear. My concern is, obviously, once this data comes in and the political appointees begin to look at it, there is a chance that they're going to look at it and suddenly 57% of the contracts gave predominantly to Democrats, and that this administration would go, oh, that's not a good idea to release, because then it looks like we're giving preferential treatment to more people, and then suddenly is there a statement of this executive order suddenly goes away. Is this not a mining to go out and look and say we're either going to expose one thing or another, and if it's politically not expedient, there's the opportunity to say, I don't think we're going to release it this time. It just allows that. Obviously, I understand we're 2 or 3 steps down the path on that, but it becomes this circle on this. And your comments about transparency, I understand the transparency concept, but having gone through job interviews and interviewed multiple people myself, I know when I'm looking at an application, that's not about transparency, that's about who I'm hiring and who I'm not. Transparency is after the fact, to expose to everybody what's happened. Before the fact information is an application. That's information I'm gathering to make a decision. So to say ahead of time, I'm going to gather this information, but I'm not going to really use it to make a decision, begs the question why it's on the initial information. That seems to be something that would be exposed later, not before. As I've gone through interviews, there's not been a time I've looked at it and said, I'm not going to look at that section of the application. I'm pretty much looking at all of it. Do you anticipate with this that there will be a time, as we get down the road, again, it's a hypothetical to say, we need to balance this out better. We have too many people that are in companies that give from Republicans or Democrats. Let's establish a quota system that will only do procurement based on, we need to have a balanced number of companies that give to Republicans, Democrats, or don't give at all. Do you anticipate this is where that would head, to try to balance things out and make it more fair? If we determine there are a lot of Republicans, let's say, that give to these companies, so we need to make sure we have more companies that are Democrat-owned that actually get engaged in this in the procurement process and set that quota aside?
Absolutely not. We need to protect, we need to keep politics out of the contracting process.
I would completely agree, and there's a good way to do that, is to keep it exposed as we are right now. Well, one last thought on this. OMB currently has the authority to put out a circular to require, information about grant writing in particular. Is there any conversation that you're aware of in OMB on the grant writing to put out a circular saying, let's do for all those that get grants, let's say from unions, that they would have to give who they give to and the union members that are leadership to no political contributions? Now, that wouldn't take an executive order. That's just, OMB could do that now. They already have the authority to do that. Do you know if there's been any conversation related to that?
You won't be surprised to hear, sir, that I'm not in a position to disclose internal discussions.
Okay. Well, that would be interesting to note just on that. The President has been very good to just say, we don't want to do an end around Congress. But this certainly feels like the previous Congress said this wasn't a good idea, and so they're going to do an end around Congress just to be able to find a way to legislate in an area that does not have legislative authority. I understand you have a responsibility, but this was a clear decision made by previous Congress not to do this, and now we're going to currently try to do it anyway. And I find that fascinating and an interesting conversation for another day on constitutional issues and authority. So thank you for your time.